Either party on that matter present? I see William Bauer that is in the Zoom room. Mr. Bauer, can you hear me? All right, I cannot hear you. It looks like you're perhaps not connected to audio.
Your Honor, I just sent him a message. Well, I've been messaging him in regards to the audio, but I sent him a message letting him know he might want to just hang up and try dialing in on a phone number.
Okay, all right, we will pass this call. All right, do we have Mr. Bauer present?
Mr. Bauer.
William Bauer. William Bauer, yes. Sorry, the Zoom is not working right on my phone right now.
All right, thank you, sir. So the court will recall the matter of Tasha Bana versus William Bauer. Mr. Bauer present. I believe we might have the.
Well.
Thank you. All right, in front of the court, what is the status of this matter?
The defendant has a support obligation of $569 and an account balance of $34,944.86. A payment of $3,024.56 was received in June of 2023. That payment was a combination of a non-voluntary and income withholding. And in May of 2023, payment of $197.13. Previous to that payment, a payment of $591.30 was in May of 2022. The friend of the court would like to know if the defendant and verify contact information.
Thank you. All right, thank you. What is your current employment status, sir?
I am self-employed.
All right, and how long have you been self-employed?
A few years now.
Okay, and what do you do for work?
I work on heavy equipment.
And what state are you residing in right now?
Florida.
Have you given in front of the court that new address?
I have not. I haven't spoken with friend of the court. I spoke with Edward Brzezinski when I was living in California, and I have been
When did you move to
payments to Tasha. I don't have a date that I moved to Florida. I don't have that written down.
All right. What year did you move to Florida?
This year.
What month did you move to Florida?
I do not remember.
All right. So you moved from California to Florida this year, and you're not sure what month it was. Do you know the general time frame?
Yeah, this year.
All right, sir. I don't know if you're playing games with me or if you have a memory issue, but
Yes, sir.
it seems like you would be able to provide an idea as to roughly when you moved to Florida other than this year.
A few months ago.
Okay.
I guess it's a memory issue. I apologize.
And in Florida, are you renting or do you own a house, pay a mortgage? What's your living situation?
I own property in Florida, yes. I do not pay rent, no.
Okay. Do you have a loan on that property? Are you making payments on it? Or do you own it outright?
I own the property,
payments?
as I stated earlier.
Well, people own property and sometimes they have to make payments still. So they are the owner, but they have a mortgage or some type of loan. So you have no loan on the property is what you're saying?
Negative.
So you do have a loan on the property.
Negative. No loan on the property. I'm not sure if there's an issue with the audio.
Okay.
You're cutting in and out.
And how much is that property worth?
I'm not sure. I'd probably have to have an appraiser come out and give me that information.
All right. Did you recently buy it?
Negative.
All right. How long have you owned it?
I'd say right around 5 years, maybe.
Okay. And when you did buy it, what was your purchase price?
About 50 hours of labor, I'd say.
All right. What does that translate into a dollar figure?
I couldn't tell you, sir. I don't operate on those terms.
All right, what terms do you operate on so I can get an idea of what this value is? You told me it was worth 50 hours of labor. You must charge labor a certain amount of labor, right?
Yeah, usually we just do trades and stuff around here. I did a bunch of tree work for a guy, and he gave me a piece of land. I can't put a monetary value on it. We'd have to have it appraised.
All right, well, maybe we'll order that. So do you have an explanation as to why you have not made a payment since June?
I have been paying Tasha, and she can confirm that. We've been working things out amongst ourselves.
All right, how much have you paid her since June?
I don't have those figures in front of me right now. We can get you those, though.
All right, Miss Benna, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, so first let me know how to pronounce your last name.
You were correct.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to say regarding this matter? Because I'm having difficulty getting answers out of Mr. Bauer.
So I was pretty much just coming on the call to let you guys know that he has been making an effort to help me out. He's bought me groceries probably like 3 times a month, like in exchange, since he wasn't able to actually pay the child support. And then he also sends money when he can, which I don't have the exact value, but like he said, I could get it together and send it to friend of the court.
Well, it makes it difficult when there's a order that exists that he makes a payment, and then if he's making payments to you and those are not reported, it does create a bit of a problem because his balance continues to increase.
I understand that. Yeah. Well, he wasn't able to most of the time give me straight cash because there was a time while he wasn't working when he was between California and Florida, as I understand. So I was just because I still needed help. So he just helped me how he could at the time, which I would once he is able to make payments through the state, I would absolutely prefer that. But I will, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that he wasn't completely neglecting paying anything.
Are you suggesting then he deserves some sort of credit for payments that he's made to you?
Yes, sir.
Friend of the court, after hearing this information, do you have any thoughts or direction on this matter? Okay. All right. Well, I think what we're going to do is adjourn the matter. So, ma'am, if again, here's the problem. If he's paying you directly and that's not being reported, we don't know that that's going on. If you're willing and comfortable with giving him a certain amount of dollar credit to figure out what he's paid you, we can apply that towards his balance and that amount can be forgiven. Even if he's only paying you a little bit, it's certainly a lot simpler if it goes through the system because then the credit is already there. I'm going to adjourn this matter.
Okay.
I'm going to adjourn this matter to January 10th and give the parties an opportunity to put together a figure as to what type of credit, if any, that you're willing to grant to Mr. Bauer. And then we'll see where we're at that date. Do you have any questions regarding that?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Bauer, do you have any questions?
Yeah, what time?
9 o'clock. All right. So January 10th, 9 o'clock, we'll have you both back here to get an idea as to what credit, if any, he deserves, and then we'll address where we're at with the amount that is not a credit. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, if you are present, please unmute and identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Abigail Hornstrom.
Thank you. We have Mr. Foust present. All right, friend of the court, what is the status of this matter?
The defendant was found in contempt of the court at Judge Mertz's hearing on September 7th, 2023, and sentenced to 30 days of work camp, and upon release from jail to contact friend of the court. The work camp supervisor contacted friend of the court and explained the defendant did not complete work camp and owes $290 in fees. The friend of the court mailed a letter on October 20th requesting the defendant to contact the office since he did not contact per that order. The defendant did finally contact the office on December 11th after friend of the court attempted to contact him multiple ways. Friend of the court suggested for him to submit information of the completion of work camp, and friend of the court has no suggestions on how to proceed today.
Thank you. Ms. Hornstrom, do you have any questions or any comments you would like to make on this matter?
I actually do, Your Honor. I just got back in contact with his mother because she has been wanting to see our son Colton. And she has stated that Nicholas Fuse got kicked out of her home and he will not tell anyone where he is located now. It's anywhere from Oscoda to Hale, Michigan.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, given Mr. Fuse's failure to appear today, as well as his failure to comply with his stipulated order, I am going to recommend the issuance of a bench warrant. What is his current balance for support?
$3,715.50.
I will recommend a bench warrant in the amount of $950 plus $100 of costs. Any questions, Ms. Hornstrom?
No, Your Honor.
Yes,
Your Honor.
thank you. You're all set.
Thank you.
Morning, sir. In front of the court, what is the status of this matter?
The defendant has a support obligation of $916 and an account balance of $10,234.50. There has been no payments to date. The defendant has had contact and options were provided to address custody and parenting time and support concerns. Friend of the court would ask the court to order a monthly past due support obligation of $100, bringing the monthly payment to $1,016 until the arrears are paid in full, and the defendant to pay a total of $2,032 by January 31st for appear on February 14th.
Thank you. All right, sir. What do you want to say as far as the lack of payment in this matter?
Absolutely. So Miss Scarborough has actually relocated twice from Michigan to Wyoming, and then since then, Wyoming to Colorado. The reason no payments were made, I had received no mail. When I finally did receive mail and notification, I had an order from Wyoming and Colorado. I was not sure which one of those two address, and Michigan as well. So regarding the visitation, I was told by her, and I have written text proof from her stating that I am not able to see my children. They were taken from Michigan without my permission, and I'm not able to see them. And it's, I spoke with Shasta yesterday with a friend of the court to file a statement of disability to have filled out by my physician. My only income at this time is my VA military disability.
All right. And how much is that income, sir?
That is $19.19 a month.
And do you want to make any comments as to why you have not made any payments on this matter?
I wasn't aware of the payments. At one point, I was speaking to Miss Scarborough. This was 2 to 3 years ago. And then when she left the state, while I was trying to get everything done, my attorney at the time said that until we were able to get it figured out into which state it would need to be paid for, that's why I was not making payments. Because the original amount was $1,800 a month, and we were trying to have it amended due to my change in employment.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So the information with the contact yesterday that I emailed him was previously emailed on August 29th, and the forms that were requested yesterday were not submitted at that point either.
Trying to look to see when a order first went into place. Support.
It should be red tab.
So it looks like Judge Hunter signed that in August. That was for the $9.18 a month. All right, sir. So it looks like this court signed the support order in August. It was at $9.18 a month. It did go back in time to January 27th of the year, start of the 2023. So that's probably why the balance is where it's at, even though it wasn't ordered until August. And you're saying you've got support orders out of other states?
I did. I received 2 support orders from Wyoming and from Colorado, sir.
Regarding the same children in this matter?
Yes, sir.
When did you receive those?
I received them approximately a month and a half ago. I have since received another document from Wyoming stating that they are removing the support order. I requested from them documentation once that is removed, just to verify that there's no issues there as well. I attempted to have Ms. Scarborough served with child custody amendment documentation as well. When she was living in Michigan, the day before she was supposed to be served, she moved to Wyoming without notifying me of the move.
So it looks like this court's support order went in effect in August and was in place, it looks like, for a little while before you received anything else. Is there a reason you didn't make any payments on this order?
I was in the process of moving, Your Honor. I don't believe the mail made it to me. I believe it was withheld at my previous address, and I did not receive the mail. I spoke to friends of the court yesterday. I do admit I never got I don't know if it went into my spam, but I did not get that email documentation. So that is completely on me for not submitting the disability documentation as stated by friends of the court.
What's your plan moving forward on making a payment on this matter?
I'll make the payment as needed, Your Honor, but I would also like amendment. I believe that the financial information that has been received is inaccurate, that Ms. Scarborough provided the courts. Also, I believe that it is unfair that that support is being awarded based on the amount of time that the children spend with either party. And I am being denied time to spend with my children. So I feel she's being rewarded for keeping the children from me. So I'll make the payment as needed, but I'm going to go to front of the court this week and submit an amendment because I feel that it's definitely unfair that she's keeping the children from me, and the amount of support is partially based off of how much time the children spend with me. But
okay, and I understand where you're coming from. Obviously, we've got the order out there. You obviously have the right to make any motions to change that. If it does change, then there could potentially be some new calculations, but there's still going to definitely be some money that's owed. So while, given that the order is currently in effect, I am going to adopt that recommendation from a friend of the court. Was February 14th the requested adjournment date?
Yes.
Okay. Adjourn this matter to February 14th. However, if you do make a payment of $2,032 before that date, which would represent, at least payments for December and January, with the extra $100 towards the arrears, then you would not have to appear on that February 14th date. Any questions, sir?
no, sir.
All right. Thank you for appearing today. That does conclude your matter.
Yes, sir.
All right. We have Mr. Parcher present in front of the court. What is the status of this matter?
The defendant has a support obligation of $72 and a current balance on his account of $2,230.43. No payments have been received since July of 2021, and that was $51.26.
All right. Do you agree there hasn't been a payment since July of 2021?
Yes, sir. I agree.
All right. What would you like to say as to why there hasn't been a payment since that time?
Oh, well, sir, there really isn't no good excuse for something like that. I was incarcerated for a little bit, and then I was injured when I worked for Eagle Corp. I'm a climber, and I fell off a silo, and I've been a little lethargic about getting back to work, and I've been raising my 6-year-old while her mom has been trying to further her job. Other than that, I don't really see a very good excuse, but that I need to start getting these payments in.
All right. For your injury at work, did you receive any sort of compensation?
Not yet. I'm going through all that as we speak. I kind of messed my head up a little bit when I fell, so I've been going to a counselor and stuff, and I got some paperwork from that too that that I was supposed to mail into you guys. I haven't got it mailed in yet. Got some PSD from it, and I just struggling trying to get back to work from everything. We had a few deaths in the family, from children to siblings and parents, so I've been struggling for the last couple of years. That really don't make it a good excuse, but that's my reason.
When did you last work?
It's been a little over a year. I tried to go back to work a few months ago. It didn't pan out. My skills weren't as good as what they used to be. I've been struggling trying to find work. My other half's been working real hard and kind of supporting me, and I think that's enabled me a little bit. I do want to step up and get these payments made and get back on track. Other than that, that's just what it is, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, you were pretty candid, and like you said, there really is no excuse, but I'm going to give you one chance here to show that you're going to get some money into the court. I'm going to adjourn your case to February 14th. I'm going to indicate, though, that if you make payments of, well, a total payment before that date of $244, you would not have to appear that day, and then we just continue to monitor. That figure that I came up with is based on your $72 a month amount, and I tacked on an extra $50 each month to pay towards the arrears, given that it's built up and there's not been a payment in a long time. Do you have any questions regarding that, sir?
No, sir, that I appreciate the opportunity to redeem myself, and I apologize for letting this get out of hand like this.
All right, well, I certainly appreciate that, sir. We'll give you a chance to show that you can change the pattern here, and if you get those payments in and then keep making payments, we shouldn't have to see each other again, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank you
Your
very
Honor.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have Ms. Sprague present in front of the court. What is the status of this file?
This hearing was adjourned from November 15th, as it was the first show cause for the defendant on this case and he failed to appear. The defendant has a support obligation of $333 and an account balance of $3,589.50. There have been no payments received to date. The defendant is not in contact with the front of the court, and there's been no return mail received. So due to the failure to appear, we would ask for a bench warrant in the amount of $900 plus $100 in court costs.
Thank you. Ms. Sprague, do you have any questions or any comments that you would like to make?
If I may, I would like to request not to do a bench warrant. Me and him have just been in contact these past few days. I do believe he is trying to get on the call now. I can provide a phone number to the front of the courts if they'd like one. He did say he is on the call, I do believe. But please don't issue a bench warrant. I don't want him to come up here. If we can just try to communicate moving forward, that would be great.
All right. Is there a Casey McPherson present? Ma'am, do you know his?
I'm here.
I think you might. All right. Good morning, Mr. McPherson. Your case has been called. You owe. The information I got is your monthly payment is about $333. You currently have a balance approaching $3,600. Does that sound accurate, sir?
I believe so.
All right. What would you like to say about your lack of payments in this matter, sir?
I've been unemployed for the last since February, and I've been dealing with some legal issues down here in Florida, so I have not been able to make any payments, and I have not gotten any paperwork from the court until a couple months ago stating my balance, so I didn't really know, and I just got in contact with my son's mother and have been organizing it with her.
Organizing what with her?
Trying to set up the payments. Once I start working, and then I'll figure it out. I don't know. I got to look at the paperwork, and then I guess you guys are going to garnish, or the court's going to garnish my wages. So I'm looking for employment as we speak.
All right. Well, we would likely do an income withholding order once you get employment. I just want to make sure we've got your right information. And what are your thoughts on your prospect here for getting some employment?
Hopeful.
Is there anything that prevents you from working?
Physically or mentally, no. Just dealing with legal issues. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, when you say dealing with legal issues, are you not able to work because you had a period of incarceration, or what would cause the legal issue? Okay.
Well, I'm on probation right now too, so I've been trying to deal with that. Yes, but periods of incarceration throughout the year.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're not incarcerated now and just on probation, so that shouldn't prevent the ability to find work and maintain a job. I'm going to adjourn your case and see where you're at with your employment. I'm going to adjourn you to February 21st. Obviously, if you get a job between now and then, you need to let a friend of the court know. What are you currently doing to support yourself?
I am just being helped by family.
All right. Do you live with family or do you live on your own?
I live with my girlfriend.
Okay. Do you pay any rent?
Her parents help with that end.
All right. All right. Well, Mr. McPherson, it sounds like it's been a while since you worked. You're going to need to step up here and get some employment. Doesn't sound like you have any mental or physical issues that prevent you from working. So we're going to expect that you're making efforts to get employment and have employment. It may not be a job you want necessarily right out of the gate, but you need to have employment to make these payments. If you don't have any employment, we'll address, the potential for contempt and a recommendation for jail when we come back in February. If you do have employment, then we will get some income withholding order together to start getting the payments in. Mrs. Sprague, do you have any other questions or comments?
The only one I would have, the $330 a month, I feel is a little high. Is there any way that that could come down for him?
Well, that would be a motion that someone would have to file to address the support amount if it's not correct. So you'd have to go through those steps.
Okay.
All right, Mr. McPherson, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll see you back here in February.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, sir. In front of the court, what is the status of this matter?
The defendant has a monthly support obligation of $226, which includes confinement costs. The account balance is $893.53. On December 6th, the plaintiff waived arrears owed to her. The last payments made were in August 2023 and July 2023 when defendant paid $240 and $300. The friend of the court asked for a monthly past due support obligation of $50 be ordered, bringing the monthly payment to $276 until the arrears are paid in full, and then for the defendant to make payment of $552 by January 31st or February 14th. All
right. Is there anything you'd like to tell me, sir, regarding payment on this matter?
Yeah, I don't know, probably roughly 2 months ago, 3 months ago, somewhere in there. I think it was about 2 months ago. My bank, Huntington, allowed somebody to come into my account and steal a decent amount of money from me as I was because I was in talks with front of the court, and I told him I was going to make a payment by the end of the month. Well, I think we talked twice in that month, and she had called the second time, and she was like, "Are you going to take care of it by the end of the month?" I'm like, "Yeah," and my account got hacked and money got transferred out of my account, and I actually have an open investigation with that, and it just wiped me clean. I was really hurt. There was nothing I couldn't do nothing. I was up a creek without a paddle, and I just now started to get back on my feet, so I should be back to where everything's going back to normal.
All right, I will adjourn this matter to February 14th. I am going to recommend that you pay an additional $50 per month to adjust the past amount due. If you do make a payment of $552 by the end of January, then you would not need to appear on that February 14th date, and we would just continue to monitor the case. You have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. You're all set.
I'm
right,
here as
Mr.
well.
Judge present, and we have Ms. Eggleston present. Thank you. All right, Ms. Eggleston, this is your motion regarding support. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and what would you like to say on behalf of your motion?
To be honest, I don't think Jeremy was very honest when we were wrapping up the end of our divorce in January of last year. I don't think he was being honest about his income. He claimed economic hardship. But then 3 weeks later, he suddenly told me he had a job. He bought a house a couple months later. He's been on vacations nonstop. I mean, I don't feel like he was being honest about his income.
And he did send me a text message. I did print that out about when he started working. And as far as I know from the courts, they were not ever told about this new job.
Okay.
There was other stuff regarding parenting time, but I did not include that motion in. I was going to, but then I forgot about it. So the other half of my note here is it doesn't matter for today.
You're asking for a new support calculation. Is that correct, ma'am?
That's correct.
Mr. Dudd, what would you like to say in regards to that request?
I've been in contact with friend of court on a constant basis. I probably call them way too much. I bug them, but every time there's a change, any change at all going forward with anything, or whenever I had started employment, they were notified. They were sent all the paperwork. They sent paperwork to the work. They are currently garnishing my checks. And then as far as it goes, like, I don't think she understands what she's talking about. Yes, I was married, and yes, we did get a house. I was not allowed to be on the mortgage. I am attached to the mortgage as a non-obligated person, but I didn't qualify for the loan. So the only reason I was even on the house is because we were married and I was able to be added to it after everything was done. And as far as, like anything else goes, I mean, I was in constant contact with either Ben or Shasta about everything.
Friend of the court, if you're aware, it looks like the last support order was in the end of 2021. Does that sound correct?
Correct.
All right. And Mr. Dudd, has your employment changed since that time frame?
Just whatever employment that I had started. It's the same thing. They would have everything from when I started employment. As far as
what is your current job?
Paperwork that they send out for the employer to fill out and everything.
Right. Is the job that you have now the job that you had back in October of 2021? Sir?
I'm thinking, I don't know off the top of my head, like actual dates.
What are you currently doing for work?
Unemployment for a little while before. So maybe it was under unemployment at that time. Not 100% sure on it. I just know that.
Do you know his job was at the time of the last calculation?
I don't remember exactly, but I think it may have been based on the unemployment.
Okay. And what do you do for work now, sir?
Equipment rental.
All right. Well, given that we've got some change in potential employment, I do think there is cause to revisit the calculation.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
I will grant the motion that we do have a new support recommendation prepared based on the party's current income. So both of you will have 21 days to comply with the front of the court regarding any information they need regarding your updated income. And then a new support recommendation will be prepared, and both parties will have the right to object to that recommendation if they feel that that recommendation is not consistent with the employment information or has any other issues. Mr. Dudd, do you understand that, sir?
I understand, yes.
All right. And Ms. Eagleston, do you understand?
Do.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from front of the court?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you both for appearing. As indicated, you do need to comply with your current financial information to the front of the court. Thank you. All right. So, Ms. Brown, this is your motion. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So a support recommendation was sent out and you are objecting to that recommendation, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, what would you like to say regarding that, objection?
I just feel the amount is higher than necessary. We've been co-parenting together very well. And we spoke and came to a number that worked for both of us. We were both comfortable with of $500 a month. And, that way it doesn't create a hardship on Aaron with his other children. Because after looking at the paperwork, it didn't have that he had 4 other children taken into account either.
Front of the court, do you know if other children were taken into account?
They were not. The paperwork that we received only had 2 children listed on it.
Okay. And Mr. Metelsky, you're indicating you have other children, is that correct?
That's correct. On the paperwork I sent in, I don't know what happened in the sending of it, but I did add all my children on there. All 4 that live in the house, including the 2 that are on this order that we're talking about today.
Okay. All right. Ms. Brown, did you think there was any other issues with the actual support calculation?
I mean, other than it was missing his own other children, I just feel it was more than what's needed for my 2 children.
Okay. And Mr. Metelsky, is there anything that you wanted to say regarding the support recommendation?
No, I'm in agreement with Christine on this one today.
All right. What we're going to do, I think, is amend that calculation and see where that falls after that.
Your Honor, can we just have clarification on the other 2 children? Are they biological children, adopted, or stepchildren?
All right. I think it's 4 kids, correct, Mr. Metelsky?
All 4 children are my biological children.
All right. And they live with you?
They live with me, yes.
Do they live with you full time, or is there a parenting time schedule?
Full time. Their mom has 2 of them have no. Their mom hasn't been around in years, and the other 2 live with their mom and myself.
Okay. In front of the court, do you agree that would make an adjustment to the amount?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to do is grant the objection to some point. I'm not going to set an amount at this point. I'm going to indicate that a new support recommendation should be prepared based on those other children. I don't know where the amount's going to fall. Once that's calculated in, we'll see where that amount is. And again, the both of you will have the right to file an objection based on whatever that new amount is calculated at with the other children calculated in. You have any questions regarding that, Ms. Brown?
I do. It would be more of a front of the court question, though, if I'm allowed to ask. Since the children have come back to me, I've not received any support at all. So is this going to delay the receiving support just so I know what I'm budgeting for until we get this recommendation, until this is resolved?
We could enter a redirection at the current support order if it hasn't been stopped.
Because I haven't received anything. It's supposed to have been redirected back to me. I think it was October 18th, I believe it was, at our previous hearing.
All right. And Mr. Metelsky, have you been paying this support?
Yes, it comes out of my paycheck every 2 weeks, except for the most recent Friday was down at like, I think less than $30 is what they took out versus the $230. I think it is every 2 weeks they take out normally.
Okay. All right. So front of the court, we'll check into that and get that addressed. You can reach back out to the Miss Brown to follow up. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we will prepare that new recommendation and then go from there. Thank you both for appearing at those. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kazuplik, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. Ms. Workman, as the plaintiff, I'll ask you first. What is the status of this matter?
I think we're just trying to get in stone our parenting time.
All right. Do you have an agreement regarding your parenting time?
We can't agree on the weekends.
You cannot agree?
Right.
Okay. It looks like you went to mediation and that did not work. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Kazuplik, would you agree that there is no agreement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. I have to agree. We don't currently have an agreement, although we've been following the status of our current mediation agreement as we both understand it.
All right. But you're looking for something different?
Ideally, or to keep it the same. When we entered into the mediation in this case, she was unable to provide a work schedule or a stable address, and so it made it really hard to agree to any type of change in schedule.
And Ms. Workman, do you want to do something different than what the two of you are doing right now?
I just like to change it to every other weekend instead of him having 3 weekends.
All right, so the two of you did reach a mediation agreement at one point, correct? Ms.
Yes.
Workman?
Yes.
I can't remember what happened when we were here after that and why I referred it to mediation again.
It's just because I didn't agree to what was written in mediation.
Okay. But you did sign off on that mediation on June 21st, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The two of you share joint legal custody, is that correct?
Yes.
And you have the primary physical, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Kazumplik, you are okay with what's in the mediation agreement from June 21st?
Yes, I mean, the schedule could be worked out a little better in terms of total number of overnights and how they're broken out, but I am perfectly content with the way it's set up right now.
All right. Ma'am, what has changed since the mediation agreement that would give proper cause or change of circumstances to change that
So
agreement?
at the beginning of the agreement, he was not actually taking the 3 weekends that he wanted. He was doing every other anyway. So I just think it should be that. So we both get time with our family with them.
Is he doing the 3 weekends per month now?
He has the last 2 months.
Okay.
There were 2 weekends in particular. I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak out of turn. I apologize.
You go ahead, sir.
There were 2 weekends in particular that it was at her request for family events that we turn. I apologize.
You go ahead, sir.
There were 2 weekends in particular that it was at her request for family events that we alternate the weekends. And then when trying to reschedule that parenting time, it became a conflict.
Okay. All right. So from the court's perspective, the parties have a mediation agreement that was reached on June 21st, 2023. They both signed and agreed to that matter. We then came into court to address that matter. There was a request perhaps to change the weekends by Ms. Workman. The parties returned to mediation, did not reach any agreement to make any changes. What the court is going to do then is adopt that mediation agreement that the parties reached on June 21st, 2023 as the parenting time agreement. As of today, the court does not find that there's been proper cause or change of circumstances since that time that would warrant changing that mediation agreement. So the court would adopt the mediation agreement that the parties reached as their parenting time agreement. Either party has the right to object to the court's recommendation. Within 21 days, that information will be provided in the paperwork that is sent with the court's recommended order. Do you have any questions, Ms. Workman?
No.
All right, Mr. Kazumplik, do you have any questions?
I do not, no. Well, I do actually. So one of the reasons we were sent back to mediation is because our agreement in its definition is not very clearly defined. How is that defined in terms of parenting time schedule or a number of overnights? Does there need to be additional clarification to calculate that? Because I currently have a record from the time mediation was reached until today of 87 overnights out of 147, but I don't know how that extrapolates out to a 365-day year with the court system.
All right, so let's go through that mediation agreement. It says that you will exercise parenting time every Monday and Tuesday and 3 work weekends per month. So how are you handling the Monday and Tuesday?
So I have them Friday night after school, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday night. And then I return them to school Tuesday, where they ride the bus home to her residence. So she will then have them Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. So I have 4 overnights a week, and she has 3 overnights a week, is the way it's understood during the week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, and then Tuesday during the day, I'm getting them off to schools, or I have them during the daytime of Tuesdays.
And then there's 1 weekend where she has the kids, correct?
Yep. And in which case I will keep them into Wednesday day. Return them Wednesday night for that weekend overnight. So it's 3 weeks of 4 nights a week and 1 week of 3 nights a week. Part of that is because I work a Monday through Friday schedule, 9 to 5, while her schedule was primarily working weekends. And then when we re-entered mediation, we still were unclear of a set schedule with which to compensate for.
When the mediation agreement says every Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday.
Yep.
And you just indicated that sometimes you're keeping them on Tuesday night.
That one weekend, that one overnight a month that Sam is entitled to, that is the time that is happening.
All right. Ma'am, do you agree that that was part of the agreement, that on that time he would keep the child or the children on Tuesday overnight?
I mean, I don't agree. I don't remember what was in the agreement.
That is what's been happening.
Right, but I don't read it that way.
Yeah. We don't always do it that way either. I don't know. It's kind of a complicated schedule.
Well, what's difficult is the two of you reached an agreement, but it sounds like you're exercising it differently and have different interpretations of it. But it is an agreement. So usually if you want an agreement to go away, both parties say, let's throw it out and have a court hearing. If a party wants that agreement enforced, then we would enforce that agreement. But we have to make sure that everyone understands what that would mean. Because when I interpret that agreement, there would never be a Tuesday overnight for Mr. Kazuplik, because it just says he would have every Monday and Tuesday day. So he would have every Monday overnight. And then on Tuesday, his parenting time would end during the day. He would also get 3 weekends per month.
Okay.
So, sir, are you asking that we just, in this mediation agreement, do you stipulate to just having a court hearing, or do you want to follow this agreement as written?
I think it's in the best interest of the kids to maximize time with the parents, that's the mediation agreement we stick to. I don't necessarily think week on, week off, or some of the FOC recommended guidelines are the best course of action. So, I mean, I would like to stick to that with there's some other inconsistencies, and I think some things to be dealt with outside of court, but
you guys went back to mediation and couldn't come up with a defined agreement. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
We're just about the weekends. Yeah.
Because if I'm adopting this mediation agreement, then it would be that his time ends on Tuesday during the day, and there would never be a Tuesday overnight.
Okay.
I can adopt that.
Okay.
I think it'd be easier with the schedule anyway.
All right. So the court will adopt the mediation agreement, but again, it's the court's
ruling that Tuesday overnight won't be counted.
Correct. Okay.
Yep.
And a child support recommendation will be prepared based on the number of overnights. You will have a right to object to that recommendation, the child support recommendation. Also, if you don't agree with the front of the court's calculation for overnights.
Yep. And we are following the FOC holiday guidelines.
Do you both agree to follow the front of the court guidelines?
Yeah.
All right, because I know in the mediation agreement it mentioned that Christmas break and spring break will be discussed each year. So are you going to do something different with those, or are you just going to follow the holiday guidelines?
For Christmas, we have our own thing that we have just agreed on.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, we'll follow FOC guidelines, and we can handle that on our own, I think. That's in there I have them Christmas Eve and she has them Christmas Day. So I would always have Christmas 1 and she would always have Christmas 2.
The mediation agreement says that Jay will exercise his parenting time every Christmas Eve and Samantha will exercise her parenting time every Christmas Day. And you agree with that, sir?
Yes.
And ma'am, you agree with that?
Yes.
So you'll follow the other holiday guidelines, is that correct?
Right.
Now, this agreement also says that Christmas break and spring break will be discussed each year between Samantha and Jay. Do you want to continue to do, or do you want to follow the guideline?
Yes.
I'm okay with discussing it with Jay.
Okay. All right. All right, ma'am, and is it correct that you are asking the court then to adopt the terms of the mediation agreement?
Yeah.
From June. And do you feel that agreement is in the best interest at this time of the children?
Yes.
And you agree to those changes regarding the standard schedule as far as your agreements regarding Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, as well as the Christmas break and spring break?
Yes.
And are you also asking that the mediation agreement be adopted that includes the two of you would follow the holiday guidelines except for the specifics outlined in the mediation agreement regarding Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, as well as Christmas break and spring break, which the two of you will work on those based on the agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you feel that this agreement is in the best interest of the children at this time?
I do.
All right, thank you. All right, so as indicated, that mediation agreement will be adopted. And a support recommendation will be prepared based on the number of overnights. Any additional questions, Ms. Workman?
No.
All right, Mr. Kazuplik, any questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Parker, can you hear me okay? Thank you both for
Yes, I
appearing.
can.
Thank you.
And Ms. Trosper Peace, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Can I address something really quick?
Go ahead, ma'am.
My phone is having a very hard time staying charged. It's literally only at 24%, and I'm afraid of Zoom draining it completely, but I am at the courthouse, and I don't know if I'm allowed to come in or not.
Well, if for some reason you run out of power, you can do that, but this is just going to be a brief hearing just to see where we're at and what our next steps are.
Okay.
So, ma'am, you filed a motion to change parenting time, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are you seeking to change?
I would like to change from being 8 o'clock at night, because I do work at Taco Bell in Gaylord, and 8 o'clock is one of our busiest times, and it's very hard for me to be on the phone at 8 o'clock at times. I have a very hectic schedule. You know, I pull in almost 50 hours a week. And I would like more weekends. Lee does not work weekends. I don't know his schedule. He also had moved from my sister's home to another residence and refuses to give me the address to the residence so I could send Christmas gifts or even birthday gifts. He refused for me to even talk to my daughter on her birthday, which was December 1st.
All right. So when you say weekends, are you asking for weekend parenting time or calls on the weekend?
Calls. I would like parenting time in person. I would like for Skya to be returned to Michigan. I never even gave Lee Parker permission to move to Tennessee with my daughter. And he illegally changed her last name on her birth certificate, which I'm trying to figure out how to fight that one too, as it is. And there's another request that I also have. I don't believe that Lee Parker is Skya's biological father. I would like a DNA test done immediately.
All right. Well, there's different steps you have to take to have that accomplished.
Okay.
You have to follow those legal procedures. Today, we're just here on the motion regarding parenting time. There was an order issued in September.
Yep.
To change parenting time, there has to be proper cause or change of circumstances. Certainly, an issue with the phone call time can be one of those things that can address the phone call.
Yes, and he has her on a timer of probably about 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And
so hold on, ma'am. So we don't need to get into all those. What we'll do is address it. We'd have to have a hearing on the issue. You also have a parenting time violation that you filed. It looks like that is set for January. Yes, January 24th is a show cause.
January 24th.
The two of you are unable to reach an agreement as to what time the phone calls should happen. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Parker, has she discussed with you the difficulty of that time for phone calls?
No, she hasn't. And there's already a paternity test because I had to take one before I got custody of Skya.
I'm not worried about it. We're just wasting court time. If you guys are going to talk about that, you can talk about that separate because that's not before the court. What I'm trying to figure out is if we can't just simply change the time of the phone call to a time that works.
Yeah, I think it should be reduced because my daughter has night terrors about Amanda.
All right, what we're going to do then is set the matter for a hearing. We should not need more than an hour, but unfortunately, we don't have any time until February 21st. So we'll set this matter for a evidentiary hearing on February 21st at 11 a.m. regarding mom's motion regarding parenting time. So until that motion is heard, the parenting time remains as is, unless the parties reach an agreement on their own to change the phone call time. I'll also indicate we can move that other hearing that's set for January 24th, because all that would be an initial hearing. We can move that to the same date of February 21st to address that show cause. Have you received that paperwork yet, sir?
No, I haven't.
Does the court have your correct address?
Yes, no, it's my wrong address. I just changed my address.
All right, so that might be part of the problem, because it looks like a notice was mailed to you on December 4th, but it would have been mailed, it appears, to the Ridge Road address.
Yeah, that should have been mailed.
Have you provided in front of the court a new address other than the Ridge Road?
I thought I did.
In front of the court, do you know if you received an address different than the Ridge Road?
No, we haven't.
All right, sir, what is that new address? All right, in front of the court, did you get all that?
Yes.
All right. All right, so we're doing a couple things here. We're setting this matter for an evidentiary hearing on February 21st at 11 a.m. We're also moving the show cause for January 24th to that same date. I'd ask that front of the court resend him that paperwork to that new address. I am going to allow this hearing to be by Zoom, given Mr. Parker's residency in Tennessee. Ms. Trosper-Peace, do you have any questions?
Yeah, could I possibly please call my daughter on Christmas and New Year's?
Well, I can't make any changes. I would hope Mr. Parker would allow that type of contact if it's appropriate. Mr. Parker, is there any reason she can't call on those holidays?
She can, but I'm going to be working New Year's Day.
All right, so we're going to see the parties back here by Zoom on February 21st to address these issues. Thank you both for appearing. That does conclude. That's all I really need.
Thank you.
Ms. Jensen, this is your motion, correct?
That is incorrect, Your Honor. Zachary Wheeler has filed this motion.
I'm sorry. You're right.
I did, yeah.
All right, Mr. Wheeler, what is the who's seeking in your motion?
I just wanted to try and change the parenting time from, the previous motion that was set up back in 2020, I believe.
What change are you looking to make, sir?
I want to be able to, not have to. I just want to be able to see my daughter. It's been quite an issue for especially the last couple of years, being able to see my daughter and being able to have any contact with her, because the last few times I've talked with Courtney, it's been nothing but, arguing and her just dismissing the fact that, I wanted anything to do with trying to be able to see her. And it's just been a big time issue with my job and everything.
All right, let's start this way. So what's your understanding of what the current order says regarding your parenting time? All right, looks like Mr. Wheeler got muted again.
Sorry, I've been trying to figure out how to get this video going.
Don't worry about the video, because it's just making more issues. So let's just video off, don't touch anything. So Mr. Wheeler, what is your understanding as to what the current order grants you regarding parenting time?
From the last order, it was all supervised through her with no overnights, and it was supposed to be all supervised through Courtney.
Okay. That's what I see as an order in October of 2020.
Yeah.
That granted sole legal, sole physical to the plaintiff, gave you supervised parenting time every other weekend, starting November 7th and 8th of 2020. Visitations would last 5 to 7 hours with no overnights.
Yeah.
Have you been following that order since 2020?
I have. It's a long story, but I was on disability from work and I was just not in a very good place. And then, it kind of fell apart. And then after I got back to work from disability in November of 21, it's been very, very hard to try and do anything, especially when her mother wouldn't even meet up with me. I asked her to try and meet up with me and sit down so we could talk face to face, and she wouldn't even meet up with me to do anything like that. So I kind of
focus. Hold on, sir. When was the last time you had some parenting time?
It's been 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe. I think June of 21, or some right around there.
And are you saying that you've tried to exercise parenting time pursuant to that order and she's denied it?
I did leading up to some issues before I ended up getting back to work in November of 21. And then I contacted her a few times since then, and it just never really got anywhere at all. And she's been trying to, well, as of not the last time I talked to her, she was trying to take, you know, she wanted me to sign paperwork giving away all rights to my daughter, you know.
And what type of parenting time is it that you are asking the court to grant you?
I just, you know, something more typical, you know, of parenting time granted through friend of the court, you know, visitation every other weekend. You know, it doesn't have to be overnights right away, but just to be able to spend some time with her every other weekend would be plenty. I'm not even asking for a lot, because there's a lot of the relationship that needs to be rebuilt and established between her and I. And, you know, I decided to file this hearing because it's gotten so difficult. You know, it got so difficult trying to talk with Courtney and trying to do anything that I honestly just kind of gave up on it. And it just got to a point where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So, I mean, I'm not asking for a lot, you know, as far as parenting time goes. Every other weekend would be plenty for the time being.
Ms. Jensen, what are your thoughts on his request?
I don't know how to go about it, but I would like to move forward with termination of parental rights. It has been 2.5 years since he's seen her. June of 2021 is correct. But in the past 4 years,
So you don't agree, obviously, then to what he's proposing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So then what we would do is set the matter for a hearing on his motion. Do either of you intend to hire an attorney to represent you at the evidentiary hearing?
I'm not going to.
Okay.
Your
Ms.
Honor,
Jensen,
it depends on when. I know we have 5 kids. I'm not in a financial place to hire an attorney as of now. In March, though, I would be more than able to.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at hearings in February. So
Okay.
what it comes down to is, if you're going to have an attorney, I probably would set it for a little bit longer time frame. If you're not going to have an attorney, I would probably set it for 1 hour as opposed to 3 hours. So you're looking at either a 3-hour hearing on February 14th, which if you're going to have counsel, I would potentially give you that time. Well, I mean, the only issue is his motion regarding parenting time, and there's not a request for a change of custody. So I think 1 hour, even with the counsel, would probably be fine. So what I'm going to do is set this matter for an evidentiary hearing on February 28th at 11 a.m. If for one, if one of you does hire an attorney and they want to make a request for a new date, we would consider that. But I'll set this matter for the evidentiary hearing on February 28th at 11 a.m. Given the situation in this matter, I do want to do the child interview in this case. So the child would need to be here also. I would try to do the interview at 10:45, but it's going to depend on my docket. This will be an in-person hearing, which means both of you will be in person that day for court. You will get a notice for that new date. If you have any questions, Mr. Wheeler?
No, as long as I can get the paperwork and everything in the mail so I can make plans and arrangements prior to the situation or the hearing.
I would assume the address on the paperwork that you filed, that's your current address?
Yeah, that's a good mailing address.
Okay. All right. Ms. Jensen, do you have any questions?
The only question that I have is if I'd like to move forward with the termination of parental rights, do I have to fill out a request for change of custody as well?
Well, changing custody and terminating rights are different things, so you might want to talk to an attorney about that. Correct. If you want to do something, all this hearing is going to focus on is his motion to change parenting time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for appearing. It does conclude your matter. We'll see you back here on a
Thank you.
friend of the court motion or hearing request. Friend of the court, what is the status of this matter?
This is a friend of the court hearing to add the second child to the current case. The parties have a case which established custody, parenting time, and support for the minor child, Casey. Since that order entered, the friend of the court has received information that there is another child shared between the parties.
Thank you. Ms. Sloan, is it accurate that the two of you have 2 children?
Yes.
And it looks like there was a recent consent judgment that indicated you would have physical custody. You shared joint legal. And parenting time is as agreed, but that is to the child, Casey. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what are your thoughts regarding the other child? Are you seeking the same arrangement?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Clark, what is your position as to the same arrangement for the other child?
I'm okay with that.
All right, so Ms. Sloan, as indicated, there is a recent consent judgment regarding the child Casey that granted the parties joint legal custody, you to have sole physical custody, and parenting time to be as agreed for Mr. Clark. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
And the two of you also have another child. Is it Leah?
Leia.
Leah. All right, you have a child, Leah, who was born this summer, and Mr. Clark is the father of Leah. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and you would ask this court to add Leah to this case and indicate again that you would have the primary custody, you would share joint legal custody, and Mr. Clark's parenting time would be as the two of you agree. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
And you is in the best interest of Leah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, sir. You also agree that the parties recently had a consent judgment addressing the custody and parenting time of Casey?
Yes.
And the two of you also have an additional child, Leah. Is that correct?
Yes, that is, Your Honor.
And are you agreeing to the same arrangement for Leah as with Casey that would give the two of you joint legal custody, physical custody with Ms. Sloan, and your parenting time as the parties agree?
Yes, I do, because I am actually in the process of trying to go to trucking school and get my life back on track.
Okay. And do you feel that agreement is in the best interest of your child?
Yes, at this moment, yes.
Okay. Friend of the court, do you think there's anything else that needs to be addressed?
Just that we will need to do a new support calculation.
Correct. And based on that addition of the child Leah to this case, there would be a new child support calculation prepared. Ms. Sloan, do you have any questions?
Your Honor, but I do have two other children that I pay child support on too at this moment too.
Okay, well, that should be information the front of the court will use in their calculation. Ms. Sloan, do you have any questions?
Nope.
All right, Mr. Clark, anything additional?
No.
All right, thank you both for appearing today. That does conclude your matter. Mr. Schrock, if you please place your appearance on the record.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Joel Straw on behalf of Jack Savinsky, who's seated with me in the virtual room.
Thank you. And Ms. Sewell, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. And ma'am, do you still have counsel on this matter? Do you have an attorney on this matter, Ms. Sewell?
I do.
All right. And you are not, have you talked to her recently?
Yesterday.
All right. So she was aware of today's hearing?
She was.
All right. I don't see her signed in as of yet. I will give a couple more minutes here.
Some technical difficulties signing in. Jody Doak, appearing on behalf of Kendra Sewell.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schwa, what is the update on this matter?
Thank you, Judge. Last time we were before you, we still had to establish paternity. We have done that. Paternity test was completed and determined that Mr. Savinsky is indeed Marley's biological father. I think ultimately we may need a evidentiary hearing, but I am hoping that the court might be able to assist us this morning in getting Mr. Savinsky some reasonable parenting time, particularly in light of the holidays. I did author an email to Ms. Doak on December 8th requesting some day visits on twice a week for a period of 3 hours at a time. I thought that was a pretty fair request. However, I haven't heard back. I recognize the child is very small and is probably still nursing. I suppose I don't know that for a fact, but some 3 hour visits a couple times a week seems very appropriate under the circumstances, particularly to ensure the bond between my client and his daughter. Ms. Sewell has afforded my client some limited parenting time, but she requires that it be exercised at her home and in her presence, which under the circumstances I think is completely unnecessary. My client presents no risk to the child, and I can say with confidence that of the many clients I've had over the years, Mr. Savinsky has been the most proactive in educating himself as to how to properly parent an infant child. He's taken a number of online courses and really kind of been proactive to ensure that he can be the best dad as possible for Marley. So I think our request for parenting time in the short term is reasonable. And if the court wanted us to attend mediation prior to an evidentiary hearing, I've discussed that with Mr. Savinsky. He's agreeable to that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Doak, so as to paternity, do you agree that it's, the testing did show that Mr. Savinsky is the father?
As to paternity, yes, and so there'll need to be an order of affiliation that's drafted, and I would imagine since it's Mr. Shraw's petition that he would draft the order of affiliation.
I can do that.
All right. And then Ms. Doak, as to parenting time and custody, do you think mediation is appropriate, or that we should get this matter on the evidentiary hearing docket?
I think mediation is appropriate. Mr. Savensky stopped coming for parenting time several months ago. So my client had afforded him the opportunity to come to her house and see the child and have regular and frequent visits with the child. But because of his disagreement with her over what level of supervision and her involvement was necessary, he just stopped seeing the child. So with a child this age, that's a really significant factor here. But there's other factors, including his anger. Is
there a way for you to agree to some type of temporary order pending a hearing or not?
I'm happy to call and talk to Mr. Shraw about something. I'm not prepared because I'm not prepared to put something on the record today. I've not discussed it with my client, but Mr. Shraw and I can talk about it. And if we come to some kind of an agreement, we can put it in writing even before the holiday. But you can just call me and we can try to figure it out.
All right. I'm not in a position, I don't think, to enter any sort of temporary order, and I don't have time to probably get enough information and take testimony to do so. So I'm not going to enter any temporary order, but I would encourage certainly the parties to have that discussion and see what they can figure out. I'm sure both counsel, are well aware that one of the best interest factors is how the other party encourages a relationship between the child and the other party. So certainly there should be some attempts and work to make sure that there is some type of parenting time that does happen pending any hearing. As to our hearing dates, if the parties are going to try mediation, I'm still willing to get put an evidentiary hearing date on the docket then to see how your mediation goes. But I probably would give you February 21st if the parties are going to go to mediation. So hopefully, if you get into mediation in January, then let us know if that date is going to be needed. Do you think that's possible, Mr. Schwab?
I think that's possible, and I am available on the 21st.
I'm available on the 20th.
Sorry, what did you say?
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it would be at 1 p.m. on the 21st.
That's fine.
My whole day is available on February 21st, Your Honor. I'm expecting that my client would speak up if there was a problem with that date right now.
Okay. All right. So we'll set that. So that date's fine?
Yes.
Okay. We'll set the matter then for an evidentiary hearing on February 21st at 1 p.m. That is an in-person hearing. Do the parties want a referral for mediation, or will the two of you just handle that on your own?
If you could give us a referral, that might make it happen with a little bit more urgency.
Sure. We'll make some calls. So we'll also refer the matter for mediation. But of course, we would ask that if the parties have that mediation and resolve it, to let us know as soon as possible.
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you both for today for an evidentiary hearing regarding custody, parenting time, and support. Ms. Carson, have the parties reached any agreements on these issues?
We haven't really talked about it at all outside of the court hearings. I'm planning a visit to go see my kids. I'm actually leaving to go see them tomorrow. But other than that, it's still kind of a gray area.
So are you asking that we move forward then with this evidentiary hearing?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Campbell, you would agree that there are no agreements at this time?
There was at one point I don't know if we had agreed on it. We had talked about them staying with me for the winter and going back to her in the summer. I don't know if that's still a plan or if that's something that could be done.
Okay. Ms. Carson, what is it that you are seeking as far as a court order?
I didn't even want my kids to leave the state in the first place. He just up and took them. His family gave him the money to take them because he's been unemployed for a long time.
Well, are you seeking then to have the primary custody of the children in Michigan?
Yes, that's what I was hoping.
Okay.
They live here. Michigan is their home state. They lived here
All right.
for over.
All right. All right. We're going to move forward with the hearing. We'll put you both under oath and take testimony that way. Okay. So Ms. Carson, you are the plaintiff. So we would start with you. All right. So ma'am, this is your opportunity to provide me any testimony you wish to provide regarding what you think the appropriate custody and parenting time is for the children.
I believe that they should be, sole custody with their mother. I'm not trying to take full custody away from Dustin to make it to where he can't see his children. But for him to just take my children from me without talking to me or anything, like we had agreed on a parenting plan before he left the state. I wrote it down on paper and submitted it to the court with the original paperwork. And when he was served that paperwork, he fled the state with my children. So I'm just looking to get them back in the state. I'm looking to have them back. I want to see them every day. I don't want to be apart from them. It's already been 3 months.
All right, so I see that you filed something back in September of this year.
Yes.
You indicated that you and Mr. Campbell had agreed to parenting time. Is that the agreement you just referenced?
Yes, that was the agreement that we made, and then he went behind my back and he took my kids.
All right, so let's get some timelines together. So you filed that paperwork on September 27th.
Yes.
Of this year.
Yes.
With the two of you living together or not living together at that time?
We were living together. We were residing at my mom's house in Vanderbilt.
Okay. When did you stop residing together?
I told him that our relationship was coming to an end and that I had made living arrangements with me and my children in town so that I could be close to work. I told him about how we could write out the parenting agreement and everything like that.
All right, ma'am. The question was, when did the two of you stop living together?
We stopped living together when the court paperwork was served because he left that night.
Do you know what day he was served?
It was the day the paperwork was notarized. I went and I picked it up and I served it to him.
All right, so you personally gave him the paperwork?
A friend of mine gave him the paperwork, served it to him.
All right, so let's talk about that. What happened then after he got the paperwork?
After he got the paperwork, I went with my friends because I had to go back to work that day and they gave me a ride back into work. I got a phone call from my mom later that day at work. She called my workplace and told me that Dustin had received money from his family and he was planning on taking the older two boys and leaving the baby and he was going to flee the state with my two kids. I told her.
1 second. So who's got children in the background?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, so that's not feasible for the court record. So
I will step out. I will step outside.
All right, man. And you're getting me a little bit confused with the timeline, Ms. Campbell. So I'm going to have to go through this with you a little bit better. So it looks like he was served paperwork, according to the file, by a Kate Malenfant.
Yep, that would be my friend Kate.
So he was served on September 27th.
Yes.
But you filed it looks like an ex parte motion. Well, I guess you filed it that same day. It was dated earlier.
Yep. So I had received the paperwork and then it took me a couple days to fill out because I needed some help. I didn't want to fill it out wrong. And then I submitted the paperwork. It was notarized and then Kate had served Dustin.
So on that date, you two were still residing together at the start of that day?
Yep. So my mother's house was my legal place of residence. I was working multiple different positions at Applebee's.
All right, hold on, ma'am. Ma'am, my question was a yes/no question. So on the date, on the 27th, at that time, the two of you were still, the start of that morning, were still living at that Airport Road address?
Yes.
Okay. So then he gets served the paperwork.
Yes.
Did he then stop residing at the Airport Road address?
He left that night or the next morning.
And did you continue to reside at that address? Or did you move out also?
After he left, I could not stay there anymore. I packed up my belongings and I moved in with my coworker, the living arrangements with my children that I had agreed on before. It's just my children aren't here with me. They're with Dustin.
Okay. And then, so your understanding is he left then for Washington right after that?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had any parenting time with the children since he left?
No, I haven't seen them. I barely get phone calls. I get phone calls maybe once or twice a week, and that's for 10 minutes at a time.
Did he ever tell you in advance that he was leaving for Washington with the children?
He told me that he was going to try, and that's when I went to the courts for assistance and for help. When I served him the paperwork, I thought that that could stop him from leaving, but he called police officers and everything, and they told him otherwise. So instead of trying to fight him on not taking my kids, I willingly had to say goodbye to them so that I didn't, bring any past history or anything up with the domestic violence that he had before. I didn't want to cause another issue like that.
So before you filed, he had already said to you that he was going to go to Washington?
He said that he was going to try.
Okay.
Because he didn't have the funds to do it, so he was relying on his family to get him the money to do it. So I went to the court to spend my money to submit that paperwork and hopefully
all right, hold on. You did answer you answered my question. All right. So we'll move on to the next question. So you file, he gets served. The kids were with him at that time?
The kids were at my mother's because I was working. So he was with the kids at home because he was unemployed.
And then did you understand that then he left your mom's house with the kids?
Yes.
Did you say goodbye? Did you see the kids before he left?
Yeah, so it was after work. I had came home that night and I basically just said my goodbyes because he was leaving that night. And I didn't want to try.
He told you, hold on. So he told you at that point he was going to leave with the kids?
Yes.
All right. And after he left with the kids, you indicate you've had no parenting time, correct?
No.
And how often do you speak with them by phone?
Maybe once or twice a week for about 10 minutes at a time.
Okay. Your oldest is 4 years old, is that correct?
Yep, my oldest is 4, my middle child just turned 3, and my youngest just turned a year old.
Okay. Just to be clear, you were not in agreement with him moving to Washington, correct?
No, absolutely not. Not with my children.
All right. Other testimony, other things you would like me to know, ma'am?
Not that I could think of at this time, no.
All right. I'm gonna have to run through some questions with you then. So did the two of you reside together full-time prior to him leaving?
Yes.
So since the first child was born, you guys have lived together?
Yes. We've been living together for over 6 years until September.
All right, let's talk about how the children were cared for when the two of you lived together. Was there one of you who primarily stayed home with the kids?
Yes. So when my oldest was born, I became a full-time stay-at-home mom. I was the full-time stay-at-home mom and their full-time caregiver since all of them were born. Dustin tried to be the working dad. His history with employment and income was very spotty. I relied on Facebook and the community to help me get what I needed for my kids to take care of them. It wasn't until earlier this year in April when we moved back with my mom that I had found employment because I knew that I couldn't rely on Dustin's income to take care of us.
Okay, what do you do for work?
At the time, I just recently quit. I worked 5 different positions at Applebee's. I was there 40 plus hours a week. Sometimes I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. I now have a new job. I'm a sales associate. It's kind of like a hybrid remote position. I work for Riverside Payments, and then I also work as a lead position for Subway here in Gaylord. So I have 2 jobs.
Okay. And what is your current housing situation?
My current housing situation, I am renting from a friend of mine. I rent out her entire basement. It's 2 bedrooms, my own bathroom, and a living room for $700 a month.
And what would be your plan as far as sleeping arrangements if you had the children at that residence?
The children would have their own bedroom. They also have their own playroom and their own bathroom. All of our utilities and food is included with the rent, aside from like me buying my own groceries if I ever wanted to. I was looking at getting state assistance through DSHS for childcare assistance. I have also been talking with NEMSCA, DSHS, the health department, everything like that to get my kids caught back up on their vaccinations and ready for school to start.
When you say the children have their own rooms, so the 3 of them would share a room? Is that what you're saying?
It would be me and my youngest in one room, and then my oldest and middle child in another bedroom.
Okay. And what is your future plan? Do you intend to be at that residence
No,
moving forward?
I'm using my tax refund to get my own apartment.
And do you intend to stay in the Gaylord area or move somewhere else?
I'm looking to stay in the Gaylord area if I can, because that's where my workplace is. I don't have a vehicle or a driver's license right now, so I would be walking or carpooling with friends or coworkers, whatever. My workplace is literally 4 blocks away, so I just walk. And I've got people all up and down this street that will babysit my kids, and they're all trustworthy.
Your oldest child has not started school yet, is that correct?
No, I received a phone call from Dustin's mother about 2 weeks ago. She was asking me for my kids' social security numbers so that she could try and get them enrolled in school. She told me Dustin hasn't put forward the effort to do it himself, so she was taking matters into her own hands.
Is your oldest kindergarten age yet or not?
He turned 4 on August 31st of this year, so he could have started Head Start because he will be 5 years old this coming summer.
Okay. And what would be your plan if the oldest child was living with you as far as education at this time?
He would be going to public schools. I would either be dropping him off and picking him up from school, or he could ride the public transportation, the school bus. I also have friends, families, daycares, everything as possibilities if I do get my kids back, that they would be able to watch my children if I do end up getting them back. I've already got everything on standby. I'm just waiting for them to come back home.
All right. So am I correct that you said you were basically a stay-at-home mother until April of this year?
Yes, I was a full-time stay-at-home mom until I gave up with Dustin and I got my own job because he went through 6 jobs within a month and he couldn't provide for us. He couldn't pay our bills.
All right. And then you indicated that at the time the two of you separated, he was not working. Is that correct?
He wasn't working, no. He wasn't working all this year and half of last year.
Okay. So during the time that you were working, was he then the one who was primarily watching the kids?
Yes, with my mother, her boyfriend, and my 2 teenage siblings that were also in the home.
All right. Do you have just a bond and a emotional ties that exist between you and the children at this time?
Well, I mean, I'm their mother, so of course there's going to be a bond there. I call them and
Well,
they
the two of you, do they
surprised.
display affection? Hold on. Do they display affection to you? Do they hug you? Do they come to you? What's your relationship like?
Absolutely. I mean, if I had them in person, I'm sure they would come to me. They always do. They love both of us just as much, though. I can't say that they love me more than Dustin or vice versa because we've both been there with them together, their entire lives. Yeah, I don't know. I know they would come to me every time I call them. They reach for the phone. My 4-year-old tells me he misses me. He asks me when I'm going to come home. I'm sorry.
Ma'am, do you have the ability to provide the children with food and clothing and their medical care?
I do.
Do they have any sort of insurance?
Well, before Dustin took them, they were registered with Michigan State Insurance out here. Medical, dental, hearing, vision, everything. I still have all of their medical cards.
What was the housing situation for the two of you when you guys lived together? So you said you were at your mom's most recently. How long were you there?
Since we moved to Michigan, March of this year.
All right. And prior to that residency, where did the two of you live?
We lived out in Washington State. We were in Gold Bar, living with a friend of Dustin's, until that friend kicked us out because Dustin couldn't pay the rent.
How long were you in Washington?
We have been back and forth between Michigan and Washington at least once or twice a year for the last 6 years. Okay. We move out to Washington. Dustin can't provide. We move back to Michigan. Things go good. We try again out in Washington. He can't provide. We move back here.
Okay. Ma'am, do you believe you have any moral fitness issues that impact your ability to parent?
No, absolutely not.
Do you believe Mr. Campbell has any moral fitness issues that impact his ability to parent?
No.
Do you have any mental or physical health issues that impact your ability to parent?
I have mental illnesses. They do not affect my ability to parent. I have a therapist and counselors and coping skills and everything that I use to get through my day.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Campbell has any physical or mental health issues that impact his ability to parent?
Again, I would say mental illness. I don't think he's been diagnosed, but he does have some anger issues. He does lash out a lot and he yells a lot. but it doesn't affect him from being a good dad. He loses his temper, but everybody does every now and then.
Do you believe that since you've separated that Mr. Campbell has facilitated and encouraged a close and continuing parent-child relationship between you and the children?
I mean, through messages, he says that I could call anytime, but whenever I call, I either don't get an answer or his phone's going to die, so the phone call has to be cut short. He says he's going to call me back, and then he never calls me back. It seems to be more excuses and lack of contact versus me actually being able to see and talk to my kids. At the beginning, when he first moved away, I couldn't talk to my kids for a while. He kept telling me that he wanted back with me and he missed me, and I wanted nothing to do with him. I just wanted my children, and he wouldn't give me that because he wanted me. And he was using my kids to keep them from me because that's all he wanted was me, and I don't want that.
Was there any domestic violence in the relationship between you and Mr. Campbell?
For a while. So there was one domestic violence charge that Dustin had actually received, but it got dropped down to disturbing the peace when I was pregnant with my middle child. Since then, it's been yelling, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, lack of support, a lot of narcissistic behaviors. It got to the point where I didn't want to be intimate with him anymore, and he would take no for an answer. He would wait for me to fall asleep and then try with sleeping. And finally I gave up, and I got worried for my life, and he knew that I had a history of sexual assault in my childhood before, and he didn't even consider my feelings. He just...
Okay, so you indicate there was a time where he was ultimately convicted of disturbing the peace, is that correct?
Yes, he was convicted for a domestic violence, and the state put a restraining order against him so that he couldn't come back home to me. But since I had medical issues and I needed assistance because I was on bed rest and still had my oldest to take care of, I tried to fight to get those charges dropped to get him to come back home to help me take care of my 1-year-old, because I was in a high-risk pregnancy and on bed rest, and I couldn't take care of my toddler by myself.
Was there a physical assault that he committed upon you?
He grabbed me and left markings. And my mom and her boyfriend at the time, they're not together anymore, but they took pictures of my arms and the markings that I had on me. He was very drunk. He took my car. He tried taking my oldest without a car seat. And he completely demolished and destroyed my car, not even a mile down the road from where we live.
Okay. Was there ever any other incidents of physical violence against you?
When we lived out in Seattle, I called police on Dustin because I was afraid that it was going to turn into another domestic. This was about 3 years ago, and they were able to settle the situation with mediation after coming to our front doorstep. But there was no physical attack that day. It was just I called police out of fear, and I just needed help that day.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say, ma'am?
Not at the moment, no.
All right, thank you. Mr. Campbell, you do have the right to ask this witness any questions. Do you have any questions you would like to ask her?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Carson, do you have any other witnesses that you want to present?
Not with me, no. I wasn't prepared.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Campbell, do you wish to testify?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so this is in your chance then to provide any testimony you want to provide regarding your position on the custody and parenting time for the children.
My only main concern is, yes, I would love to have my kids, but my main concern is if she's working all these hours that she says she's working, is she really going to be there for the children? I picked up a night shift job. I'm here awake all day with my kids. I go to my night shift job where I work all night as a warehouse associate for Maersk International. And then I come home and again, do it all over again. You know, I sleep when they nap. My oldest, he doesn't nap. So my mother is nice enough to watch him while I sleep. I just want to make sure that that the parent is in their life, whether it's me or it's her.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, Your Honor. I except to tell you I love my children and I just want what's best for them.
All right. I'm going to run through this kind of the same questions I did with Ms. Carson with you. But first I'm going to ask, so what is it that you are requesting as far as what the court orders as far as custody and parenting.
I mean, again, I would love to do the winters out here with me and they go to school. And then in the summer that I have no problem. I'll fly out there with them and take them to her.
So it's your request to have the children during the school year and mom to have the summers. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So I asked Ms. Campbell about her relationship with the children. What is your relationship like with the children?
Great. I come home every morning from work, and whether my oldest is up or not, if he's not awake, he hears me come in the door. He gets up, he comes running to me. He says, "Hi, Daddy. I love you. How was your day?" My middle child, he's autistic. He's doing very great with his speech and vocabulary. I work with him on it daily. He's eating all kinds of new foods that I work with on him daily. Our youngest, he's standing. He's starting to stand on his own. I feel like they're progressing greatly, and my connection with them has never been stronger.
Okay. Do you have the ability to provide the children with food, clothing, and their medical care?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is your current living situation?
We are residing with my mother in a 3-bedroom apartment. Me and the babies share a bedroom, and the 2 older boys have their own bedroom.
Okay. And what is the plan moving forward? Are you staying there for a while, or are you looking for something new?
I am saving up money to try and get an apartment closer to work.
And is it your intent then to remain in the state of Washington?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right, you do not have a plan to move back to Michigan?
I really don't, Your Honor, no.
Okay. Do you have any moral fitness issues that impact your ability to parent?
No, Your Honor.
Do you believe Ms. Carson has any moral fitness issues that impact her ability to parent?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any mental or physical health issues that impact your ability to parent?
Other than, what she said, I do lash out sometimes. I've been getting help with my anger. I believe that I have come a long way on that department, Your Honor.
Do you feel she has any mental or physical health issues that impact her ability to parent?
I mean, if she says that she's getting help for her depression, then no, Your Honor, I do not.
Okay. Do you feel that you have facilitated and encouraged a close and continuing relationship between the children and Ms. Carson since you left the state?
I try to do my best, Your Honor. I told her she's more than willing to call whenever she would like. Yes, there are those times where, a phone call is not feasible at the time, but I do try to make it possible when it is.
Was there any domestic violence between the two of you during your relationship?
Other than the 2 times that she had stated, no, Your Honor.
All right, so you acknowledge those incidences that she mentioned?
I do, Your Honor.
Did she ever commit any acts of physical violence against you?
No, Your Honor.
Can you shed some light on the decision to take the kids out to Washington?
So when she served me with the papers, she hadn't been home in like a week. It was obvious that there was nothing between us. I had no emotional, no support out there at all. All of my family and everything is out here. I had absolutely no support. She wanted me to remain living with her mother. And I couldn't do it. I came back to where I had support for me and my children.
Was Ms. Carson in agreement with you moving to Washington?
No, she was not, Your Honor. She didn't stop me, but she did not want it.
Have you looked at any schooling options for your oldest child in Washington?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
Is he old enough to attend any sort of preschool or any sort of school at this time?
I am looking into having a Head Start teacher come to the home.
How long have you been in Washington?
Since September. We got here about, it would have been maybe, it would have been the end of September, Your Honor, shortly after.
When did you first start looking into some type of Head Start for your oldest?
About a month after I got here. It was right after the first hearing I started looking into it, Your Honor, when you told us that we wouldn't be doing this again until December.
And you have not started any enrollment at this time?
No, I have not yet. Again, I have to get them caught up on their vaccinations before they are allowed to attend or be part of a school.
All right, and then just to clarify that, so at this point, you're asking that the children reside with you primarily, but spend summers with mom. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And if mom had the primary custody, what do you think your parenting time should be?
I mean, I would be perfectly fine with the exact flip. You know, if she wants to keep them during the school year and I take them during the summer, it would be fine. I want time with my boys.
All right. So obviously the two of you have got some distance between the two of you. Do you feel the two of you have the ability and the financial means to fly the kids back and forth for parenting time?
I feel like if it is set to where, you know, we have those months to save for it, I don't see why either one of us can't.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to say, sir?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Carson, do you have any questions for Mr. Camp?
No.
Okay. So, ma'am, I'm going to turn back to you then. Give you a last chance to see if there's anything else you want to say.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did just want to add of importance. When Dustin had stated that I wasn't home for a week before they had left the state, I just wanted to clarify, and I do have witnesses to back me up on this. Dustin had told me that he didn't want me at my mother's house because he had no other place to go. He had no support. On top of that, he also refused to help me get rides to and from work. Even though the vehicle that we had belonged to both of us at the time, he refused to help me get transportation to my job. So that's the only reason why I wasn't home. But I did go back to my mother's house daily to go get clothes and see my kids and everything like that. I was staying with a friend to be closer to work here in town because I could not lose my job if I wanted to keep my kids.
And ma'am, if you had the primary custody, what do you think the parenting time should be for Mr. Camp?
I feel like he should have, free range to see his kids. I'm not going to keep him from seeing his kids. He could do the phone calls whenever, like I've been trying to. If he has the money to come for a visit, like what I'm doing, he's going to have them for Christmas clearly. So I'm leaving the state tomorrow, and I'm going to see my kids for Christmas. So, I mean, as long as we could keep it cordial and keep it mutual between the two of us, I don't want to make it difficult for anybody. I just
if they were with you during the school year, what kind of time do you think he should have in the summer?
Well, if I have them if I have them during the school year, he would have them during the summer. Would that be how it works? Or
well, I'm just asking what your thoughts are on
I have no idea. I've never done this before. A lot of my friends, they've done the custody thing and they're like, oh yeah, I've got summers and every other holiday. And I'm like, well, that sucks. I mean, I don't know how this goes. I really don't.
Well, there's no set way, so that's why I'm just asking what your thoughts are. Obviously, you guys have a greater distance than most parents, so every other holiday is really not an option when you got to fly 3 kids back and forth. But you would not be opposed to him having the summertime if you had the school.
No, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
And is it your request for you to have the school year and him to have the summer?
Whichever makes it easier. I have a feeling because the school year, it's already started or about to start, and I don't.
Well, ma'am, he's asked for the school year and you to have the summers. Okay. You have the right to ask for the opposite of that, or you can agree with that. That's why I'm asking you what your preference is.
We could do the school year with him and then summers for me. As long as, like, he's not going to prevent me from seeing my kids in between. Like, if I have the means and the money to go visit them for, spring break or something like that, I would like to go see them.
All right. So let's get this clarified, because when you started, you said that you were asking for them to be with you.
I am asking
during the school
with me, but as of right now, if things were to change, I don't have the funds to fly them out here right now. Like right this minute, if you were to say that, oh, I get them during the school year and I can have them back right now, I don't have money on me right now to go do that.
Okay, but you are asking that you have the custody during the school year. I'm not saying we got to start it tomorrow. I'm just saying that's what your request is as far as. Pardon?
I can do the summers. I can do summers with my
Ma'am,
kids.
hold on. I'm not trying to negotiate with you. I'm asking you what your position is. What do you want?
I just want my kids back. I just want to see my babies. That's all I want.
Okay. All right, Mr. Campbell, is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to take a brief break to go through my notes as well as the best interest factors in the file. I will be back on the record in probably 5-10 minutes to put that decision on the record. Versus Campbell matter, I have had a chance to review my notes as well as the file. We're here today on a evidentiary hearing regarding custody, parenting time, and support. A custody case was filed by Ms. Carson back in September. There are no prior orders in this matter, so the court does not have to consider proper cause or change of circumstances. Court does have to consider whether or not there's an established custodial environment with either one parent, neither parent, or both parents. In this matter, the parties resided together throughout the majority of time of the children's lives. They just recently separated in September and upon separation, dad left with the children for Washington. That was not with mother's consent. Given that it's only been a short period of time that the children have been gone and with dad, it is the court's finding that there is an established custodial environment with both parents. Both parents lived together and jointly cared for the children for the majority of their life, minus the last couple of months. And then that break in time was at the decision of the defendant father when he left the state with the children. So in order to change the established custodial environment, there needs to be a showing of clear and convincing evidence. However, in this case, we know that the parties reside in 2 different states, so it is not possible for the parties to share equal custody given the distance and the need for the children to be in school. The court then looks at the best interest factors. The first factor being the love, affection, and emotional ties that exist between the parties involved and the children. Both parents had provided testimony that they do have a close bond with the children and do share love, affection, and emotional tie with the children. So I find this factor is equal. The next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the children love, affection, and guidance, and to continue the education and raising of the children in their religion or creed. Again, both parties appear to have the capacity and disposition to give the children love and affection and guidance. Both parents have indicated they feel the other parent is a good parent. And so therefore, I would find this factor is equal. There's nothing showing that either party does not have that capacity or disposition to provide the children with those needs. The next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to provide the child with food, clothing, and medical care. The testimony indicates that both parties have that ability and they have provided for the children during their relationship. Both parents have indicated they feel the other parent is a good parent. And so therefore, I would find this factor is equal. There's nothing showing that either party does not have that capacity or disposition to provide the children with those needs. The next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to provide the child with food, clothing, and medical care. The testimony indicates that both parties have that ability and they have provided for the children during their relationship. There's testimony regarding some employment issues throughout time for Mr. Campbell, but he is currently working and has found ways to provide for children. So I would find that factor is equal. The next factor is the length of time the children have lived in a stable, satisfactory environment and the desirability of maintaining continuity. The testimony is that the parties have moved several times throughout their time together and throughout the children's lives. Mom has stayed in Gaylord, which was one of their more recent moves where they've been since March of this year. Dad has moved the children out of Michigan and to Washington. There really has not been a lengthy period of stability for the children. So I don't find that either parent outweighs the other parent in this factor, and I would find this factor is equal. Next is the permanence as a family unit of the existing or proposed custodial home or homes. Dad indicates he intends to remain in Washington for the time being to continue to live with his mother, but with a plan to get a place of his own. Mom indicates that she is also looking in the future to have a place of her own, but also intends to stay in Gaylord. It is the court's finding that this factor is equal. Next is the moral fitness of the parties involved. Both parties indicate that they do not have any moral fitness issues that impact their ability to parent. And there's not been shown any evidence that either party has a moral fitness issue that has impacted their ability to parent the children. So this factor is equal. Next is the mental and physical health of the parties involved. Both parties have acknowledged some issues, but it does not appear that any of their issues actually impact their ability to parent and care for the children appropriately. So I would find that factor is equal. The next factor is the home, school, and community record of the children. The children are quite young. The oldest child has not started preschool or any sort of Head Start program yet, but is eligible and could have started that this fall. Dad indicates he is looking into that. He has been, though, in Washington for several months, and that has not started, given his failure to get the oldest child involved in some type of schooling, Head Start or preschool. I would find this factor favors the mother due to dad's failure to get that done. The next factor is the reasonable preference of the children. If the court considers the children to be of sufficient age, the oldest child in this matter is 4 years old. I do not find that the children are of sufficient age to be interviewed and express a preference. The next factor is the willingness and ability of each of the parties to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship between the child and the other parent. Parties have only been separated for a short period of time, but during that separation, dad has removed the children from the state. Mom has indicated that there's been some difficulties with regular phone contact, issues with call back, and making sure those are initiated. So given dad's decision to leave the state with all 3 children and without mom's consent in that move, as well as difficulty in ongoing communication, I would find that this factor favors the mother. The last factor the court is considering is domestic violence. That's regardless of whether or not the violence was directed against or witnessed by the children. Mom testified that there has been some physical incidences. Dad did agree that there was some physical incidences in this matter between the parties when residing together. Therefore, I would find that factor favors the mother. Given the totality of the best interest factors, it is the court's recommendation that the parties share joint legal custody, but that mom be awarded the primary physical custody of the children, and that dad be awarded parenting time. The parenting time schedule based on the length of distance between the parties would be that mom would have the primary custody during the school year. Dad would have parenting time in the summer. This parenting time would begin 1 week after the school lets out. So it would be based on the Gaylord public school system, unless the oldest child ultimately attends school somewhere else. But 1 week after the Gaylord public school system is let out for the summer, the children would then be with the dad. He would have the summer up until 1 week before school is back in session. During that summertime, mom would certainly be entitled to travel to Washington to see the children at some point if she wanted. I would grant mom the ability to do that and indicate that if she traveled to Washington, she would have the right to 5 nights of parenting time, but that she would have to give dad advance notice of at least 10 days regarding her plan to go to Washington and spend time with the children. I did want to discuss then holidays with the parties to see what their thoughts are on sending the kids back and forth during some of those school breaks. So moving forward in the future, I mean, typically I might grant the other party, every spring break type of parenting time, but I don't know if that's something that the parties want, or if they want to work out something like that, additional parenting time on their own. Mr. Campbell, so knowing that the court's recommendation is that the kids are with mom during the school year, what are your thoughts on having parenting time or the ability to have the kids come to Washington during spring break time or Christmas break time?
I'll facilitate in any way I need to make sure that I can see them, Your Honor.
All right. So now what I would indicate then is court would also recommend that dad be granted parenting time for every spring break based on the Gaylord public school system, as well as, well, here's the difficulties. I don't think mom should miss out on every Christmas with the children.
Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead.
With this lead position that I have at Subway, I do get paid vacation time. I also get like sick days and all of this stuff that I can build up. So for those Christmases, like we could do what we're doing this year. I'm driving out to Washington to go see them, and we could do a big family Christmas out in Washington. And then since I have them during the school year, my family here in Michigan, we can do something outside of actual Christmas. So we
right.
can
So
make
are
it
you?
work. I can
So
travel
you're indicating,
with
man, you would be okay that during Christmas break the children spend that time with their father?
Yeah, I can travel with them and then I can bring them back. It's if he can't financially, you know, like if we can't fly or anything, we would be driving. So we can make it work.
All right. So I'd indicate that I'd also recommend that the dad have the parenting time during the Christmas break. And sounds like the parties will work on the specifics of that together. Obviously, if you have difficulty with the specifics, you can always seek a court order to address that if the two of you can't come to agreements. So the biggest question then is the return of the children to Michigan. Mom, you said you're going out to Washington, is that correct?
I am. I'm leaving Michigan State tomorrow to drive out there. And we're gonna be staying in Washington to visit with my boys for Christmas. And then we planned on heading down to California before returning to Michigan. It's just a winter vacation that I had planned.
Okay. So you're in a position then to bring the children back to Michigan, is that correct?
I could, at this point in time on such short notice, it would be hard to get, you know, like my childcare and stuff lined up this soon. I was thinking about that myself. Could we?
Well, two of you are certainly free to agree how that happens. So I'm just making this court's recommended order.
Would it be possible for Dustin to hold, because I mean, I don't think I could get them into Gaylord schools on such short notice right now because, you know, the holiday season's about to happen. He's going to have them for Christmas anyways, and then spring break. Could we plan on me picking the children up at the end of his summer parenting time? Like I could still do my trips out there, whatever, and then I will pick them up then. That way I have, you know, everything figured out and we don't have to transfer them, you know, like twice within 6 months to a year.
Certainly the two of you are free to work that out how you want. It's going to be, you know, I'm making the court's recommended order, how the two of you handle the transfer and when. It's certainly something the two of you can agree with.
Absolutely. Okay.
I will also recommend that a child support recommendation be prepared based on the court's decision. Ms. Carson, do you have any questions?
I do not. Is all of the documentation going to be provided by mail?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if I had to pick it up or not from the courthouse.
No, we will send you a copy of the court's recommended order. Mr. Campbell, what is your address, sir?
1 second. Let me go get it off a piece of paper so I'll give you the correct one. 012.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions regarding the court's recommended order?
I think everything was pretty well answered. There's not a set date I have to return them to her. It's kind of us figuring it out together.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Carson, anything additional?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. What was that?
Anything additional, ma'am?
No, that would be it.
All right. All right. Well, thank you both for appearing today. That does conclude your matter.